Shalom. With the start of Swords, but giving no praise to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahshua, Bashem, Kakodash. Double honors to the Apostle, great Most High, and honors to you brothers doing the work of the Most High in truth and in sincerity. Yahweh is the real name of whom the world ignorantly calls God, Jehovah, or Yahweh. His real name is Yahweh. His son's true name is Yahweh Shai. And when we pray Yahweh, Ba Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba meaning in, Ha meaning that, and Sham meaning names, Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai. This is from post that I saw on LinkedIn, right? I won't play the video just because it's from the Tonight Show, and I'm pretty sure they'll just try flag it. But yeah, it says when you watch it, it's basically what is said here, right? So this is Bill Gates just made a shocking statement on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, right? And if you're watching, right, these things are not shocking, right? We understand the plan of these elites, and not of ourselves, but because it is a gift, right? We understand the plans of the elites, right? We may not know the intricacies, right? We see through a dark glass, we see through a glass darkly, roughly paraphrasing, but basically we have a general gist of what these elites are getting prepared to do, right? But in fact, let me grab this as well, because I heard it the other day and I thought I ain't heard that one in a minute. Right, this is First Thessalonians 5. I'm going to start from 2. I'll start from top. But of the times and seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you, right? Well, I'll go into it, right? For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night, right? So, just being able to observe, the things that are going on, right? I'm sorry, I'm buffering, so I'm struggling to do two things at once. Because that once you get a preset, and it's like that, it's like, if you carry on, that you might lose it. Yeah, there we go. Right, it says Matthew 24:32, right? It says, no, now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, you know that summer is nigh, right? So there's certain, certain signs, right? That summer is nigh. Sort of like, right now we're just coming out of winter, right? And the first, first signs is every now and then, like for instance, if you're in direct sunlight and there's no wind, you might feel the heat on your face. Or you walk, you might see the first bee of the of the year, or you might walk and you might get that waft of fresh flowers, right? As an example, right? So when when we're in what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, so right now we can see those signs. There's certain signs, right? Just like in the same vein, the Lord has basically left signs as to for us to know how close we are to the end of this man's kingdom, right? Verse 33. So likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors, right? Let's also jump over to second Ezra 9, right? It says, he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs pass which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made, right? So the Lord has left a whole load of signs, a whole load of breadcrumbs, right? I didn't want to use, in film, they use the term, like I don't even want to use it, but in film there's a particular term they use, but I'll use breadcrumbs, right? The Lord has left some breadcrumbs, and as clues for us to be able to see just how far along, right, in terms of prophecy we are, right? And that's these prophecies, that's these prophecies, and that lets us know how close we are to the end, rather than me say it like that. So then shall thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when they shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people, right, which you've seen a major earthquake happening this week, right, earlier on this week, right? Wrong word. That's not what I wanted. Right, and just a whole load of other things just happening, throughout the world, right? We are kind of in the time of, freak weather events, but because he has co-opted science, right? Which scriptures talk about science falsely so called. Right, grab that real quick. Can I spell? No, I can't spell. Right, this is First Timothy 6:20. Right, so Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings, right, in opposition of science falsely so called. So he has a lot of stuff that he claims is science, right, but it's really, his witchcraft, right. So when you're seeing stuff like, the whole warming stuff, you know, a lot of that stuff, right? Let's say that stuff is all harp or whatever it is. Guess what? Still the Most High that has allowed those things to happen. But what does he make it seem like? It says, oh, it's the warming, it's this, it's that. But no, it's really the Most High visiting this earth. Okay. This is what we read here, Isaiah 29:6. Thou shalt be visited of Yahweh of hosts with thunder, and with earthquake and great noise, with storm and tempest, and the flame of devouring fire. Right, like for instance, even in South Korea right now, they're having a forest fire greater than they've ever had. Last year, California, well, this year actually, California and places are having forest fires like it's never been seen, right? And throughout the world, you're seeing these freak weather events that have never been seen, right? Why? Because the Lord is visiting this place, right? And more, right? People are going to start being like, yo, hey, maybe the Most High is pissed, okay? So it's the second Ezra 9:2 says, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time when the house will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when they shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, right, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning, right? So we look at all these things, right, and it helps us get an idea, right, of how far along we are, right? So once again, going back to this, when we're seeing certain of these things that they're not they don't surprise us. Now the execution we may be like, oh damn, like when I look at what's been happening in the AI space recently, I'm like, yo, okay, the fact that you can type in a few commands, and you know what, Akim, hey, make use of the AI, man, right? I saw what you call a guy I used to work with, great designer and everything, right? But he allegedly just put together a whole ass website, right? With AI from a few designs, right? Now, will it be, will it be as good and as safe? Because is there risk associated? Yeah, of course, there's risk associated, right? However, when I looked at it, I was like, you know what? If you just had an idea and you've never had time to really, put it to the test, the barrier of entry has greatly been lowered, and that's really what it is. You can get, you get like the Wix websites and Squarespace type websites. Hey, make use of it. You got similar AI tools that will allow you to build something, like that as easy to those types of capabilities, right? And if you just wanted to validate an idea, once again, the barrier to entry, right, has greatly been lowered, right? But going back to the point, when I'm looking at what's been happening in the AI world, right, recently, right, it's just like, yo, things are moving, right? So it was surprising in that instance, but once again, we understand the whole point. The agenda of the elites is you will own nothing and be happy, right? Until and then they will be implementing the MOTB, right, as part of that. Okay. So we continue on. This is 1 Thessalonians 5 and 2 now. So for yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them all, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that that day should overtake you as a thief, right? And that's us, right? Through the Spirit of the Lord, right? Once again, not of ourselves. And most always needs, give credit where, to the Most High, to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, right, for the things that we have, because they were revealed unto us, right? This is Amos 3:2, right? It says, not 3:2, 3:7, right? So surely the Lord power will do nothing, right? But he revealeth his secret unto his servants, the prophets, right? So it's the Lord that, gave us these precepts. Let's see what some of these scriptures say, right? This is 1 Corinthians 2:10. But the Most High hath revealed them unto us by his Spirit, right? For the Spirit searcheth all things, yea, the deep things of the Most High. Just pick one more randomly. Say John 3:27. John 3:27. John answered and said, a man can receive nothing, right, except to be given him from the Most High, right? And that's it. So, and yeah, that also goes, once again, that ties very nicely in with this AI stuff, right? Because E thinks that, so like if I was getting a bit dry, but E thinks that, this AI was something of his own doing, right? But not understanding that it was given him, right, for this purpose, right? This is Isaiah 10, right, from 13, right? It says, for he saith, by the strength of my hand I have done it, and by my wisdom, for I am prudent. Right. So when he's looking at all of this stuff that he's achieved, he's given himself the credit, not understanding that it is the Most High that hath given him this. Right. It says, and I have removed the bounds of the people and have robbed their treasures. Right. And that's what he's ultimately going to be doing. What you've been seeing over the last, through this man's history, but really, in terms of just now, like over the last, since the vid, right, is just this massive wealth transfer, right? From the common man to the oligarchs, right? And this AI is going to do nothing but expedite that, right? Because when you watch this video, he's saying, farming, that's going to be robotics. He's basically saying everything is going to be AI and robotics, okay? And even industries where you think that there's no way that could be automated, that it requires this, requires that. Even Jimmy Fallon, in this, he was like, well, is my job safe? He says jokingly, and if I remember correctly, I just watched it, but later, if I remember correctly, Bill doesn't say, nah, you safe. He doesn't even banter him. Okay, if I remember correctly. So these yeah, it's all done, right? This is let me finish off. And I've put down the inhabitants like a valiant man, right? So all the things that Esau has done, right, through his wisdom, through his prudence, or whatever, ultimately it was given him from the Most High. However, right, he takes the credit for himself. I'm just loading that one up for the end, right? But actually, let me just actually finish reading the rest of this, and let me close some of these tabs as well, so I can focus. Right. So it says Bill Gates just made a shocking statement on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. He said that in less than 10 years humans will not be needed for most things. So let's run with that. Right, let's run with that. That's not gonna be like you've got 10 and then everything now changes. No, that is lots and lots and lots of people losing jobs, right? And one of the things I always say is, like, for instance, you get like the high earning jobs, like your proper finance roles, right, where they can just get a bonus of like 400K a year, just like that's just a bonus, and that can be an entry level man's bonus, okay, in them kind of roles. Now those are roles where you can very easily have a robot tracking the trades that are being made, right? And then in those trades, guess what? If you've got a software that's tracking, at some point the software is going to start outperforming what the humans are doing, and then you stop having to then pay all of those exorbitant rates. Now, all of those people, they live in the most expensive part of towns. Those are the people that bring the most money, in terms of tax. Obviously, they'll have their little loopholes, right? But then they're also spending the most. If those people stop spending, what happens to the rest of the economy, right? Everyone gets hurt, right? And I see those jobs being the first roles to start, to start really getting impacted. Because once again, if you're a JP Morgan and your salary bill is in the billions, right, you're going to be wanting to lower that, right? Let me just ask the robot real quick, right? He's yeah. Let me see whether it can find anything useful, right? So once again, that's gonna oof, oof. So in 2023, JP Morgan Chase reported total non-interest expenses of $87.2 billion, with compensation expenses accounting for $46.5 billion. This indicates that over half of the bank's non-interest expenses were dedicated to employee salaries and related compensation. Now, obviously, JPMC is a major what's the word conglomerate, right? They've got offices all over the world, right? So you're gonna tell JPMC that if they just start using some AIs, right, which obviously their business is they do a lot of stuff, right? But you tell me you can halve that, even if you just take it, you cut that bill down by like half, right? Or 20%. That's billions of dollars, right? Saved on salaries. Okay, so that's obviously going to have a knock-on effect on the economy, right? Doctors will not be necessary because AI will provide medical advice. Teachers will not be essential because AI tutors will handle education. One thing that's interesting here is one of the things that the elder speaks about a lot. One of the elders here speaks about a lot, right? Is the fact that the teaching system is through, right? Even to the point where it's almost as if the teachers are being hindered, right, from doing their jobs. As work as we know it will change because AI will replace most roles. Let that sink in, right? The man who helped shape modern technology is now saying AI will reshape the world in ways which we cannot imagine, not as a tool to assist us, but as a replacement for human expertise, right? So let me just grab this, right, and close it out. This is Ezekiel 28 from the top. So the word of Yahweh came again unto me, saying, Son of man, say unto the prince of Tyrus, thus saith the Lord power. Because thine heart is lifted up, and thou hast said, I am a God, I will sit in the seat of God, in the midst of the seas, yet thou art a man, and not God. Though thou set thy heart as the heart of God. Right now, the modern day prince of Tyrus is represented by this Edomite. Right, that's the he's the he's the proud one, right? He's the one representing here. Right? Let me try to say that again. I froze for a little second. Right, the modern day prince of Tyrus is this Edomite man. Okay, it says, yet thou art a man and not God, right? Because he, despite his pride, right, he's elevated himself as a god, and that's what this AI is. With this AI, right, he's gonna think of himself as a god, right, and that's why ultimately the Most High is gonna have to intervene, right, because this man's gonna be able to see, track, predict all of this sort of stuff, right. Predict accurately, that's a different question, right? But you watch films like the one that talks about pre-crime and stuff like that, you know. So it says, yet thou art a man and not God, though thou set thy heart as the heart of God. Behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There's no secret that they can hide from thee, right? When you look at this AI stuff, man, it's fascinating, right? It's fascinating, and ultimately it's the Most High that gave Esau that understanding, okay? He's the one that gave Esau that understanding to be able to, just with algorithms. But then also, it's not just the algorithms, right? This is the thing, because the Most High gave this Esau this spirit to have this, to play this long game, right? Because someone that kind of works, not kind of, but someone that works with software. I think about the fact that for us as software guys, right, when we put together websites, we were trained to make sure we always add an alt tag, right? So an alt tag basically means if you got an image, sometimes you see that the image doesn't load, but you see some text where the image hasn't loaded, right? That's an alt tag, right? So we've basically been putting all of this information, annotating this information, using, structuring our websites in a way that Google can understand them easily, right? And then what has that helped build? It helped build the data source that has then fed these AIs, right? That's why the scripture says, "In the heart of this man is deep." Okay, right? So, as always, Lord's word, I was edifying. Till next time we say, Shalom.